It is now week 10 of College Football Corner. Randy, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Week 10 means the college football playoff rankings have come out. We talked about that last week, knowing it was coming, and it's out. So let's get into that right now. We'll just start talking about what we thought of the rankings, and of course what the national reactions were and stuff. But basically, when did you see the rankings? Did you see them live, or did you see them a little bit later? And what did you think when you saw them?
I seen them later that night.
Okay.
After they come out that evening, but the biggest thing that stood out to me was I think Oklahoma got screwed big time.
Yeah. Oklahoma definitely. What were they? I got them up here on the screen. They're 8th. So
yeah,
not a whole lot of love for the Sooners being undefeated. There's no doubt. So, what do you think about where Cincinnati hit? That's one of the big hot topics for sure on the radio. Is them being at 6? I think they are.
Right. I don't. I think that. I think that's about right. To be honest with you, I think that most of the teams in front of them would probably beat them. Of course, we don't know that.
Well, right.
But I think teams with a loss should. I would have had the undefeated teams in the top there because a lot of that's gonna play out. And when it's all said and done, if after Ohio State plays Michigan State and Michigan and whoever in the Big Ten championship, and Alabama plays Auburn and plays Georgia, if they get that far or whatever, all that's going to play out, and the strength of schedule is going to play out too, and then possibly Cincinnati falls out of the top 4 or whatever. But right now, I think being undefeated. They beat Notre Dame. Oklahoma's beat everybody that they played. So, actually I had Georgia, Michigan State, Oklahoma, and Cincinnati.
Right.
And then Alabama and Ohio State after that because, like I said, most of them had the opportunity to strengthen their their strength of schedule and, the games that they play because, those teams are ranked in the top 10 right now. So that would all kind of play itself out. But I didn't really see any reason to penalize them at this point.
Yeah, there's just so many talking metrics and all that. And, and the reality of it is, and this is, I personally believe this, Alabama could lose, let's say 2 more games, Auburn 1 and maybe Georgia, just not really mattering when they lose them. And then somebody could ask me, do you still think Alabama is one of the best teams in the nation? I'm going to say yeah, because they're loaded in talent. They got great coaching. They've lost some games. So that's the one thing that they're like, well, they probably beat Cincinnati. And they probably would. But I think at this point where the rankings are, Cincinnati needed to be higher just because they have been undefeated. And they did go and do what very few Power 5, group of 5 schools do, and that's go and win 2 Power 5 games on the road against formidable opponents. Of course, they didn't know Indiana was going to not have a great year and be decimated in injuries. But Notre Dame has only lost once, and they're Notre Dame still, and their schedule is not turning out to be the greatest either. A lot of teams are down all over the place. Clemson's down, But you look at teams like UC, who they figure has a somewhat easy path to go undefeated, not guaranteed. And Wake Forest is the same, and neither one of them are up very high, and they're both undefeated. So it's like, are they afraid they're going to go undefeated, and then what are they going to do with them? I don't know. So, yeah, make no mistake. You and I talk about all the time: Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, LSU, Auburn. Those teams all recruit better than anybody. Georgia, and they're all going to be up there. So Alabama, I think, could have been a little lower just because of the one loss, because like you said, they are going to get other games that are going to move them up. And there are teams that are up high, Michigan State, Ohio State, they're going to knock one each other out. So it doesn't really, I understand they say it doesn't really matter where they're at now, and I get that, but it's a little disrespectful to UC, having done what they've done, to say now you're only 6, and how in the heck are you going to get out there unless the world comes to an end in college football, because it's really hard to think that Alabama's going to lose and Ohio State's going to lose and Oregon's going to lose and Oklahoma's going to lose, and they're going to jump all them. So and they don't have to jump Oklahoma, but if Oklahoma keeps winning, they've got Baylor this week, they got Oklahoma State, they got maybe 2 games with Iowa State. Now all that comes back into play. So, a lot of crazy talk, and I feel like I've got the ultimate solution, and this covers like the broad spectrum of a lot of things, and that is if they go to and I'm not a fan of 12, but if they go to 12 in the CFP, you got 5 Power 5 Group of 5. All the conference champions get in, and then you've got 2 at large to get in, and then the regular season still completely matters. You gotta win your conference to get in. If you don't, you got to be one of the 2 best teams that didn't get in, and that's including Notre Dame and other teams that aren't in conferences. And then all of a sudden now, all these other conferences can start recruiting better, knowing, hey, every year all we got to do is win our conference. We got a chance versus literally 0 chance in a group of 5 right now. Cincinnati's not going to get in the top 4, even if they went all the way out. And what else could they have done? I mean, they've scheduled. They're playing great football. They almost beat Georgia in a bowl game last year, and they're like, "Oh, that wasn't the Georgia starters." Hey, Georgia's second team is still supposed to be pretty stinking awesome. So that was a heck of a game. Yeah, it's not like they're scrubs. So. And I'm not a UC fan and all that, and I'm a Ohio State fan, but I think Ohio State probably was where they could have been, maybe even a little lower, because I think other teams should have been higher than like UC and stuff. So they lost a game, and it should hurt them, and it does, and they still have a path, and it's a tough path. They can't lose again. Michigan State can lose once, and they're probably done because they don't get the respect. Much like Wake Forest hasn't even lost a game, and. So there's just a lot of holes in it and stuff, but it will all work itself out. And in the end, I do think, Georgia and Alabama, I really feel like they're going to play for the SEC title. But I tell you, and I know you agree, that Auburn, Alabama game is going to be epic. I mean, it's Auburn's playing good, and they've got nothing to lose, and so that's going to be a great weekend when that plays. So,
they're at home.
Yep. So
yeah.
I'm not going to be like, I'm not setting the world on fire on them, but I just think my first thought was, and then you could hear it in the voices of the guys on ESPN when they said Bama was at 2. They were like, they weren't expecting that, but I think they were expecting the top 4, but maybe not. I don't know. So, and I would have had them at 5 or something, just because they had the 1 loss to a 2-loss team. But Mississippi State, how can they be ranked with 3 losses, and one of them was to Memphis? I just don't get that. Same with Wisconsin; they got 3 losses and they're ranked. So funny stuff in that CFP. But yeah, it would be fun to be in that room and listen. But they'd probably have to take me out kicking and screaming when they start putting people like Mississippi State in. I'd be like, why?
Yeah, what the heck? What are you thinking?
Exactly.
You've lost your friggin' mind.
Yeah. No doubt.
No. I agree. With I do agree with everything you said. The whole thing, Cincinnati and then Oklahoma, but I don't see the love for Michigan.
Michigan State or U of M.
No, Michigan State. I'm okay with Michigan State. Like that's another thing that's going to play out. That I believe.
You mean having Michigan as high as they are?
Yeah.
I agree, because Michigan State's the first really big good team they've played, and it was a close game. But at the same time, they found a way to lose that game, just like you said in the text to me that day. And Michigan just finds a way to lose big games.
Yeah. Well, and that running back, he cut loose for like 200 yards or something. So,
196, and first ever somebody scores 5 TDs on the ground against the Mason Blue. So, if Walker isn't the front runner for the Heisman, then they just don't want a running back to win it, because that was one heck of a display he put out there. So,
yeah, it was. I'm anxious to see how he's going to do. Basically against Ohio State. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
Ohio State's 2 games with Michigan, and Michigan State. That's going to be the telltale. But I still, and I've been saying it all year, I just don't think there's anybody else in the Big Ten that's going to hang with Ohio State.
No.
Barring some kind of upset. If a team comes in and gets a gets a special teams touchdown, couple turnovers, something like that.
Right.
Can they beat Ohio State? Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
But the schedule's pretty favorable because Ohio State's toughest games have really been at home. So they got Michigan State at home, and we've talked before about the impact of being at home in college football, and it's huge.
Big time.
I just think Michigan is too high. Michigan State will play out. The SEC is it's still up for grabs other than the East, which is all Georgia. They already got that locked up as a matter of fact. So, the ACC still, I guess, that's still up for grabs somewhat. The Pac-12 is, the Big 12 is. So, it'll be interesting to see who some of these conference champions come out to be.
Yeah, two interesting things in the ACC. Clemson still has a shot to win the ACC and get to the championship game. They can win their division because they haven't played Wake Forest yet, which is very – because they've only lost, I think, one conference game. The rest of their games are non-conference or something like that. So there's still a path for them. There's no way, I don't think, if they win the ACC, they get in the CFP at all. But they can still disrupt everybody else's schedule and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And then North Carolina and somebody are playing this weekend in the ACC, but it's not a conference game. I don't know if you heard that or not. They needed an extra game, so they scheduled a conference team, but it's not considered a conference game, so it doesn't go against the record. So neither one of the team will get a conference loss. Whoever loses that game. Very weird.
Yeah, it was a pretty good matchup too. I'm trying to remember who the heck it was.
Oh, here it is. Well, it's Wake Forest Wake Forest, North Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Wake Forest can lose that game and still be undefeated in the conference.
Well, that don't make any sense at all.
I mean, it certainly won't do many favors in the CFP, but in the conference, they still got a chance to win the conference. So, strange on that one.
That is bizarre.
So there's a lot of teams on upset alert. I'll tell you one thing. One game that's kind of intriguing is Liberty, who've been scoring a ton of points. They're going to Ole Miss, who scores a ton of points, and I don't know who in that matchup is going to play good enough defense. I'd probably take Ole Miss at home, but I don't think it's a gimme. And I really don't know a whole lot about Liberty, except I think Hugh Freeze is the coach there now. Used to be at Ole Miss, so it's him going home. And they're scoring a ton of points, so who knows what's going to happen there. Of course, we talked. We'll leave that one for the big game that we'll talk about. But Notre Dame's got Navy at home. That's a every time you play any of the academies, it's tough usually. Michigan State at Purdue. That's the one that's a huge upset alert, coming off a huge win against Michigan. Now you're going on the road, and Purdue, they got defense and they can throw the ball. So I think we were talking about them the rest of the way, heading into Ohio State in a couple weeks. Definitely the running back needs to be able to hold par until Ohio State from a Heisman standpoint, but they can't. I mean, they can lay an egg because they've almost laid an egg against Indiana and somebody else, Michigan State that is, but they got to beat the Buckeyes if they want them. I think one of those two teams is going to win the when I say the NFC East, the Big Ten East. If Michigan State beats Ohio State, it's done, obviously, because they already beat U of M. So it won't really matter if they lose to Penn State the next week. But if Ohio State beats them, then it'll come down to a season ending with Michigan, as long as Michigan doesn't lose. And they play, I think, they're at home against Indiana this week. That's probably not going to be a problem because Indiana's just a mash unit. So can't imagine. But you never know. That's why they play the games. LSU is not that great this year, but they're playing at Alabama, and they're going to bring whatever their A game is this year. They'll bring it. So I just don't see Alabama having problems with them. But you never know. That's why they play them. Mississippi State, Arkansas. Hopefully Arkansas knocks them out of the top 25 this week. That's ridiculous. I can't believe Mississippi State. Have I said that before tonight? I can't remember.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and we'll pop this one on here. The big game this week, a team that Auburn's going to play and a team that Alabama lost to against they're going to play. And how the tides have turned with these two teams this season. Auburn loses to Penn State in a really great game at Penn State. And then I think they lost to, what was their other loss? I can't remember if it was Ole Miss or LSU or somebody.
Well, they lost to Georgia.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, Georgia, which is not a bad loss because that's the best team in the nation. And
No.
have they only lost twice? Is that right? Let me
Yeah.
see the.
Yeah. They had
Okay.
the Penn State game on the road, and then Georgia.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So they got everything in front of them, and I think the back end of their schedule starting today is A&M, I guess I know Alabama. I think they do play Ole Miss still. So a lot of good football in Auburn's future. Make no mistake, Auburn can be a wrecking ball for any of those teams, including Alabama.
Right.
Especially because it's end of the year and they're at Auburn, and we have all seen some of the strangest, craziest things, regardless
Oh,
of
yeah.
records and anything, and the Iron Bowl. So that will be a fun weekend, and they got to get there. And even if they lose to A&M, they can still wreck season. So either way, it's going to be fun. So barring any injury, regardless of who they lose to between now and then, that'll be an excellent game to watch with making sure Bama moves on. So A&M, they're this team is coming far away from when they barely beat Colorado. So they certainly don't have maybe a slim chance to win that side, but crazy things would have to happen. But Auburn definitely has got the chance here. So I don't know what to think about this game. At Kyle Field, I think it's a 3:30 kick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is 3:30.
So it's like, who knows? Bo Nix, it seems like they go where he goes, and as far as if he has a great game, they're pretty good. If he doesn't, then hey, we got some chats here. I just realized that. That's my wife. Oh, and Dan Renfro. Cool. All right. I don't know who Steve. I'm going to show this on the screen. Do you know who Steve Durio, future Sportcasters guy right here? Or maybe he's telling somebody. Maybe he'll let us know about that. And my wife says she can see and hear us both, so that's much improvement on last week. So, but anyways, so yeah, what's your take on the Auburn A&M? I think this is the game of the week without a doubt. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch it. You got a feeling for this game at all, or is it just strap them up and let them go?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of throw them out there and kind of see what happens. It is at Texas A&M. So, maybe we get a comparison to the, Alabama Auburn, what's coming up with them because, they both played at Texas A&M. I think Auburn has the edge at quarterback because, Texas A&M is still playing a backup quarterback.
Right.
I mean, he's came on and they finally adjusted to that. I think that hurt them early on. And, Bo Nix is hot and cold, but it seems like he's he's finally turned the corner of what they thought he was capable of. So, this game's going to be real interesting. If Auburn comes out and wins this game, that's really going to shake things up a little bit and get the talking heads going, about Auburn. But, the problem is, they got those two losses. And that's it doesn't necessarily hurt them because, like you were saying, they can still win the SEC. And people are saying, well, there's never been a 2-loss team in the playoffs. If Auburn runs the table, I think they're in.
It's going to be hard to keep them out. They've talked about that. I got their schedule up here. They beat Ole Miss last week. They beat Arkansas the week before. So in front of them, A&M today, then they got what I think should be a very beatable at home at Auburn, Mississippi State. Then they go to South Carolina. They should beat that team. And then they come back home to finish the year against Alabama. So this is pretty pivotal. They win this game and, don't have a letdown, but they got like a couple games they could really get ready to get into to Alabama. So yeah, they've beaten the meat of the schedule in the West, and so here we go. It's going to be them and Alabama to get by A&M. So this is a big game. There's no doubt, a little bit bigger now that I've recognized their schedule and stuff. So yeah, this is going to be a fun one to watch. I'm going to enjoy watching this one tonight. This afternoon. There's no doubt. And
that should be a dandy.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine who's going to win that game. And If somebody, yeah, I mean, either team, it's a fourth quarter game where either team could catch fire and blow out. I think it's they're but I do agree they got Bo Nix has got a little edge with what he's been there about a decade now. I think so.
That
He
seems
can,
like I'm telling you, it seems like he's been there like 10 years. It
I
seems
think he's
like.
got four kids. I don't know, he's got family or something.
I think his son will be the starting quarterback next year. I don't
No
know.
doubt, no doubt, no doubt. So that'll be a fun one to watch tonight. Upset alerts. I know we talked a little bit about Michigan State. You had any other upset alerts that you were thinking about this today with the teams playing so many unranked teams?
Well, when we get into these, now we're getting into the thick of these conference games and getting into rivalries. That certainly means something in these games. And in some of these cases, you can throw the records out the window, in my opinion, because the rivalry is that big. And we're coming into those games. I'm not sure if we have any this week. I mean, like Texas A&M and Auburn's pretty big, and the
Right.
Big Ten's getting into the thick of their conference game. So, that's all of those games are upset alerts in my opinion, because I mean you get a team on the road against a rival that I don't care if they have 2 or 3 losses. You just don't know what's going to happen. We were talking earlier. Get a couple turnovers, get a special teams touchdown, get the crowd behind you, and all of a sudden things just get a little crazy.
Yeah, and there's some teams that maybe were a little bit young in the beginning of the year, so they're unranked, but they're decent teams. Power Five, we're talking. And so now they've been playing for 10 weeks, so they've kind of got their identity and they've got the experience and they're playing better. And all of a sudden, here comes a team with a ranking of some kind as a road team, and they're thinking, "Oh, we got this," and then boom, they get smacked in the mouth, and that happens,
Yeah.
So I mean, it's happened to Ohio State twice since Urban Meyer, when his tenure there.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to stay on your toes. Which I think Mel Tucker, he just looks like that kind of guy that's not gonna have that happen to his team. I could be dead wrong, but he's a serious looking dude. I don't know if you saw some of the shots of him come out on the field and after that game, but I would hate to meet Mel Tucker in a dark alley. Yeah, I'd be like, he can have anything you want. He's a good. I think he's going to be a great coach. I'd hate to see him leave Michigan State so quickly if he does, but I hope he doesn't, because I think he's a good one that's going to be there for a while, and he's a champion, I think, in the making. Ohio State's probably going to have a lot harder time with him in the next few years than before Michigan figures anything out if they ever do. So,
well, that's the kind of thing that the Big Ten needs to bring itself back. So I'm not sitting here saying it's the big one. They need that kind of thing. They need those kind of coaches. That was obviously when they get that, it's going to help in recruiting. It's going to help in everything else and bring some of these teams back. I could say the same thing for the ACC with Miami and Florida State and those teams. We know what they once were. So that type of thing. A coach like that can bring one of those teams back in a conference that's been dominated. The Big Ten by Ohio State, the ACC by Clemson. So I mean, I would love to see those conferences come back and have at least 2 or 3 teams that you're just going, boy, I don't know who's going to win this.
Yeah, speaking of ACC, I think the last couple weeks, Miami and Florida has started a different quarterback because their De'Aaron King went down with season-ending injury. And I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but apparently they found their new QB and they've beat 2 ranked teams back to back, which is really good for them. I think NC State was one and somebody else. So now all of a sudden it's like, potentially saving Bo Diaz's job. I don't know. So he, not because I think somebody plays them here coming up in a couple of weeks or maybe it's this week, or Georgia Tech. But so I think coming up, somebody plays them. Now all of a sudden it's like, hey, this is not a horrible team anymore, so to speak, like they were earlier in the year. And it's a good win, as it turns out. It always was anyways. Alabama beat them in their own backyard. So to Michigan State. So very interesting that, like Alabama Michigan State got a common opponent. They both beat them both on the road. So pretty nice. So, yeah, one other team I think that they've talked about a little bit, and it's just because they fired the coach, TCU, Gary Patterson, after 20-something years, got let go. is they're playing Baylor. Baylor, of course, is ranked, and they've lost maybe once, I think, and they're playing at TCU. TCU is not very good as far as their record. I don't know about their team and anything, but they're just a lot of 2 or 3 different people have, on the radio and stuff have picked TCU on the upset.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough to know whether that would happen or not, but I'll tune into it. And if you see the score going one way, I might turn into that game and see, man, that might be an upset. So, but
Yeah.
don't know enough about them to make that determination. But that's another one to look at. So, other than that, yeah, I think just like you said, there's all the teams in the top. They're all playing unranked teams, most of them. So they're all on upset alert. Not that they're gonna seriously lose, but you just got to make sure you take care of business until you get to the next game, that potentially the next ranked unranked thing. So,
Yeah, those headphones are driving me crazy. Sorry, but I had to get them fixed.
no problem. So yeah, it should be a good week of football.
What happened with what happened with Patterson at TCU? It seemed like something had to go on or something for as quickly as that all happened.
Yeah, they where's that at here? I just he's been there 20-something years. He's been on staff there for a little bit longer than that. He's been head coach, but I think it's like 20+ years all that he's been there. And who are they playing? They're playing I just said Baylor. Here we go. Let's see if I can figure out, because I think they've only won like 2 games or something. No, they're 3-5.
Yeah.
And they got beat by Oklahoma. They got beat by West Virginia. They got beat by Kansas State. I think that was where after they fired him. So, I don't know if they've got new leadership in there, new ADs, and they have to bring in their own guys or whatever. It's going to be interesting. I think Gary Patterson, unless he doesn't want to, will coach again, because I think he's a really good coach. He put TCU on the map, but nobody knew who they were before he got there and became the head coach. And they weren't even in the Big 12, I don't think. They came from somewhere and joined the Big 12, and they actually won it. I got to the Rose Bowl one year, I think more than 1 year, actually. So back when Andy Dalton was there and stuff, that's where he came from. So, yeah, there's not been a whole lot of talk as to behind-the-scenes stuff. I don't think it was anything weird. I think they just wanted to go in a different direction. They felt like they had to do something. But, yeah, he was a good coach. They were spread him out. He had fast players, and they played hard. They played fast. So he could be a candidate moving forward. And who knows if behind the scenes – but they said he certainly didn't want to leave there. He built his home right close to the field they play so he could see the stadium from his house. So I think he was – pretty happy where he was geographically. So we'll see what transpires with all that. Maybe if it's next year or a couple of years before he's coaching again, if he does. So, yeah, that was a weird one. I didn't see that one coming at all. So
yeah, I was kind of surprised whenever I saw that. I thought, is there more to the story? Is there not? I thought it was kind of odd. I mean, heck, if every coach got fired when they lost a game that they shouldn't lose, some of the best coaches in football would already been gone.
Oh yeah, and very few of them would be sitting around. That's for sure. What is it? It's LSU. We know is going to have a new coach. USC's got an interim already, so they're going to have a new coach unless they keep that guy. TCU, and I think I can't remember if there's another one or not, but that's just 3. And they're saying there's going to be so many more by the time the end of the season gets here. So. Huge shakeups in college football coming. Of course, like there's big talk about Franklin leaving Penn State to take one of those jobs, and then a lot of there's none of them are corroborated or anything. And he's from Pennsylvania, and they say he loves where he's at, but you never know. I mean, it's kind of like he's been there X number of years. I mean, I told my boss, if you had a choice between living in Pennsylvania and having to beat Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan every year, or move out to Southern California and be in USC and play those people. It's like, which one's an easier path? It's probably USC because it's not nearly as tough of division as it would be in the Big Ten East. And USC should be able to recruit. They're in a recruiting hotbed, so, But I would never want to live in California. That's just me. I'm a Midwest guy, so.
Well, I mean, then you have the LSU job, and who wants to jump into that fire pit?
Oh, no doubt, man. I mean, you're gonna great fan base, great recruiting class. I mean, they basically walk into LSU wanting to go there from that region, and as long as you're a halfway decent coach recruiter, they'll come. But you got to beat Alabama, Ole Miss, Auburn, and Auburn, yeah.
Yeah, you get in that division, you were already recruiting against 3 or 4 of the top 7 or 8 teams recruiting already. And of course, LSU has been one of those teams. And one thing that Ed Oregon has done is he's been a great recruiter.
Right.
I don't know how the guys understand what he's saying, but he's a great recruiter. So, that would be.
I
of
was
course,
I
money.
was so good.
I was going to say, of course, money's going to come into play. Somebody says they're going to give you millions upon millions of dollars to come, and then, that'll make you go, oh, okay, I think I can do that.
Right. Yeah, it's you hear about the money and you're thinking, man, this economy's not all that great, but these places got just piles of cash are thrown around for coaches that aren't there anymore. And I wish, if somebody would pay me $20 million to leave, I'd quit my job tomorrow. I mean,
really, for $20 million, you could do that, huh?
Oh yeah, I think I can make it work.
I think you do it for $2.
$2 million, not $2.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. I know. No, but I was a little surprised that Orgeron. He was never considered super. I mean, he did really good at USC when he filled in. Then they didn't keep him, and then he ends up at LSU, and he's like, "This is the perfect place for him. He's from there. He's been there. Blah blah." A couple years later, he's winning the national championship. And then I guess Joe Brady just does not like recruiting. That's why he left after 1 year. Because I was like, maybe they'll get him. And my sources I'm seeing there, and I was reading some stuff. He hates recruiting, so he wants to stay in the NFL. Well, that's fine. So I know there was some behind the scenes stuff with allegations and all that they never really come out. I don't know why. It's not that big of a deal, I guess. Violations, whatever. Nothing like sexual assault or something. None of that garbage. So it's like, why are they just so quick to get rid of Orgeron? When he recruits big time and they love him. So all you do is just get him better assistants with a better. He did it in 2019. He's not calling plays, so it just was weird that they just so quickly let him go. Especially when in between those 2 years was a COVID year anyway. So it's like, man, that's just something weird. But that's, I guess, LSU. That's just what they do down there, trying to make sure they got to keep pace or whatever. So I don't know. It's crazy weirdness. There's no doubt. So because I guess Lane Kiffin has been thought of for that job. I'm thinking, man, would he leave Ole Miss to go in the same division? I think he. I don't know if he would or not, but I can see him doing that because he's already jumped around quite a bit in his career. But maybe he's finally somewhere where he, personally, I think you got a better chance as LSU than Ole Miss of winning that division. But who knows?
The thing with Lane Kiffin, you mentioned him. It seems like that there's a cloud that follows him. I mean, it's not like a dust cloud or a rain cloud or something like that. But there's this atmosphere that kind of follows him that he kind of brings upon himself. My opinion with his personality and stuff. And I think not that he would be a bad fit for somebody. Obviously he's still pretty good offensive mind and also a pretty good coach. But it just seems like a little bit of drama follows him around. So maybe it's best for him to stay where he's at and at least for a couple more years, anyways.
I mean, if I'm LSU, I probably personally I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't try to get him on board because I think it's a little bit. He's young, and he's got a great offensive mind. But Ole Miss, even though they play decent offense, their defense is not great at all by any stretch of the imagination. They still almost coughed it up to Tennessee in that a couple weeks ago or last week, the golf ball game. But I just don't see him as being somebody. Now you take a look at the guy that Auburn got. I think that might be a really good hire. That team has looked really good this year, really sound, running the football good, passing the football good. Bo Nix will be gone, and he'll have his own guys in a couple of years. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of team he can turn Auburn into. But he's a much different coach than what Malzahn was and Gene Chizik. I mean, this guy looks like he's got it all together, at least right now. So that seemed like a good hire, for no drama, no nothing. This guy's just running it, and it seemed like the players love him. They're playing good for him, and they're still in it right now. So
yeah,
I don't think Lane. I agree with you on Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, he came from Boise State, the guy from from Auburn.
Yes.
And I mean, look what he did at Boise State. He did a great job there. He knocked off some big boys while he was there. They beat Oklahoma in a bowl game. So I mean, yeah, he's got it. He's kind of got it going on. I think he's a hard-nosed, more of a disciplined guy.
Right.
And that you can get away with that in college football some, but Now everybody's obviously going to buy into what he's doing with the success that he's having. So you're right. That was a great hire for them.
Yeah, it looks really good right now. I wasn't sure who he was. I saw he's from Boise State. I'm like, okay, that was a good program, and he had some good fortunes there. And now he's in the big boy division. That's no doubt about that. He went straight to the fire. So, but hey, it looks like he's not really afraid of it, and he knows what's in front of him. 3 big time programs that have all won national championships. In Auburn, LSU, and Alabama in the last decade and a half or so. So. Yeah, a lot. That's a big one to step into, but he looks like he's fitting the part, and to bring Auburn back up in there. So yeah, it should be interesting. I'm sure Lane Kiffin probably went like, man, this guy's gonna jump me real quick,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, of course you got A&M, and that division is that's crazy. I mean that. I would hate to be, and of course, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and they all got coaches that you've heard of in one way or another. LSU, next one to boot, but everybody knows Saban, everybody knows Jimbo Fisher. You've heard of Leach. He's been around 100 times. He throws the ball over the place. Pittman was from Georgia, and then of course you got Orgeron, Lane Kiffin, and then who else am I missing there? But yeah, it's like. That's one heck of a division, There's no doubt about it. Toughest in football for sure. What's that?
I said you got some colorful characters in there.
Oh yeah, and a lot of hard hitting Saturdays in that division. There's no doubt. It's going to be interesting to watch that go forward. So. All right, man. Well, I think we're ready to wrap this baby up and get watching football. Game days in Cincinnati, so we'll see if they go up to storm the stage and rip those guys off the stage and take them out there and tar and feather them for the CFP.
I've seen that people was cracking on Ohio State because they rushed the field in a win against Penn State.
Oh,
yeah. Which I don't get that. I don't get the whole rushing the field thing myself. But the kids don't care that, and probably the university doesn't care that they're going to get a $200,000 fine or something like that. But
they just want to save the goalpost.
That's not a lot of money to them, but my gosh, that's a lot of money.
They should pick a family somewhere like on my street to give that money to. Then we're like, storm the field. But
well, if it's a 1-2 or a huge win, or put you in the playoffs or something, I kind of understand it. But a regular season game, a place like Texas A&M, a military school, and all that,
right?
Really going to rush the field? Act like you've been there before and you won something. I'm just not a big fan of it. I think it's very possibly could create some type of problem.
It's happened in the past. I mean, when I think Iowa has been famous for when they storm the field. It seems like every time they win, they storm the field. Not every time, but guys trying to get off the field, they get mashed up. I mean, I watched it when they beat Penn State, and I remember thinking I would not want to be in the middle of that pile right there because I want to get off the field. So that would be nuts to be sitting in the middle of about 20,000 people.
Well, it's bad enough, you got everybody in the stands and all that stuff, and then you multiply that with, we're still in a pandemic with COVID and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So everybody that's sitting around you now, you got everybody from the other side of the stadium in your face, and
yeah.
I don't know, that's just.
When I was a kid, I was in I think 7th grade, and I used to love to go to Wayne games in Huber when I was a kid because I lived right across the street behind Community Park. So me and some friends were at the Wayne football game. Wayne was nothing back then. You could just walk into a Wayne game. They didn't even charge you. I don't think it was because they were not good. And so they were playing Centerville, and they had lost to Centerville like 30-something years in a row,
Yeah.
And they got Coach Schneider back then a few years before, and they started to be fairly good. They had a decent quarterback, and they upset Centerville at the game I was at, and I didn't even know what was going on. I was such a young kid, but it's like the game was getting ready to end, I guess, and everybody came down to the gate, from the stands, and as soon as they blew the clock, the whole stands rushed the field. So me and my buddy ran out there with it. We didn't know what we were doing. We just running. So I was part of a field rush one time, but it was probably about 300 people. It wasn't like thousands. And then by the time I got to high school, you couldn't even park in the parking lot. They got them parking in the grass. The place is full, and that's been that way ever since. So, but I did rush the field one time as a seventh grader. It was great.
All right. Oh, no flex. Whoa.
And I didn't go to jail. So, but all right, man. Well, and enjoy the football games. I'm sure we'll text throughout the day, and because we know there's going to be an upset or more somewhere somehow. Somebody's going to lay an egg. It's going to be interesting to see who it is. Hopefully, it's not Alabama or Ohio State, right?
Yeah, that's of course that's what we need it to come down to. But
That's all we care about. We don't want our teams to lay an egg.
It'll still be interesting day. So I think it's still a little bit of an interesting game for Alabama with LSU. I mean, LSU has possibly the best shutdown corner in college football. So I mean, they got a chance.
Oh, there's no doubt. It's at Tuscaloosa, which is good for Bama. And much like Bama and like other teams, you always get everybody else's best. So the best game LSU is going to play this year is probably going to be this game, or one of them. So, yeah, there's no weeks off against conference games because they're all taking you like this is a Super Bowl, So,
yeah,
win it for Ed O and all that. Go get them Tigers. So,
yeah, we'll see what happens. And then they have the upcoming, the second playoff thing coming up, and that's going to start getting a little shake up in it as these conference games go on. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully they can get it. They get it a little bit better and give some of these undefeated teams a little more respect. I think that they deserve.
I agree. So it would be interesting. Of course, they're saying if you watch somebody like Wake Forest go lose against North Carolina, then they'll be like, we knew they were going to lose, but to me, just let the field decide it. I think this team's the best team. Man, I can say that right now. I think Alabama's the best team. I don't care who they play. I don't care who beat them. They're still a great team. So it's got to matter on the field a little bit. So, but
sure, absolutely.
It'll be interesting. So,
yeah.
All right, buddy, have a good one.
Evan's going to be walking around behind me in this shirt. I'm going to have to get him a different shirt to put on or something.
Hey, I see you're classing up the place with some Ohio State fans.
Well, where he lives at, the whole household is Ohio State fans. I work with a couple of them, and they wear Ohio State stuff to work every single day.
Awesome.
Year around, 24/7. So
you work with some quality people. It sounds like.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get him a new wardrobe and send him home.
All right, man. Well, enjoy the games. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You know the drill on Facebook. Give us a like on YouTube, the bell, and subscribe. And drop us a line. Let us know what you think. And we will see you all here next week. Sweet. What's your friend's name again?
This is Devin.
Devin, right? Yeah. Oh, okay. Just want to say hey.